It is 7:30 p.m. and we will call this meeting to order. I am at the Portland Senior Center along with Selectman Jim Tripp and a couple of other members of the public. The next item of the agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all stand, please.
It stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Number 3 of minutes from the October 7, 2020 Board of Selectmen meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
So moved by Jim Tripp. Is there a second?
Second it.
By Rick Shaw. Of minutes being approved as presented, it signify by saying aye.
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 Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Let the record show that all of the 7 selectmen are present. Mr. Hernandez, are you still with the meeting? I just don't see you on my screen.
Yes, Susan, I'm here. I'm just going to go on video shortly in a couple minutes.
Thank you. No problem. The next item is accept the agenda as presented. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
So move
I'll second it.
second.
Ralph.
I'm sorry, I did not
Ralph seconds it.
seconds it. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item under communications and correspondence, I wanted to let the selectmen know that we have received a $250,000 grant from the State Department of Public Health for the purposes of looking and identifying alternate water sources for the public drinking supply in the town of Portland. I do not have any additional details at this point. And I understand that Lori Matthew, who is head of the water division of the Public Health Department in the state, will be giving us additional information through her staff. As soon as I get that, I will let you know. We are very grateful and we say thank you to the state for this money. It will greatly help us, hopefully in the future, to mitigate and/or some help, perhaps even reduce water rates, which is very, very important to our community. Under public comment, Kitch Cernicki had written to me and wanted to have me read something into the record. Hi, Susan. This is from Kitch Cernicki, who lives on Main Street in Portland. We cannot attend the meeting this evening. Please, our sincere thanks to the Portland Police Department for their action in regard to morning traffic. The intersection of Route 66 and Main Street, the traffic flows and the zippering works well. We are still awaiting on another topic, the second Freedom of Information pertaining to a mugging that occurred at 422 Main Street on September the 4th, 2020. It has been brought to our attention that 8 different individuals reside at 422 Main Street. With thanks, Kitch and Ed Cernicki, spelled Czrnicki. Thank you. I also received a letter from Mr. Ken Kearns, last name Kearns. Mr. Kearns lives on Riverside Street. He addresses, hello, my name is Kenneth Kearns. My wife and I have resided at number 12 Riverside Street in Portland, 2003. It is a wonderful neighborhood located just on Street, also Route 66. Our neighborhood is adjacent to the Connecticut River, and our street is extremely busy with traffic, especially in the spring and summer months, as we are on approach to 3 large located on the river. The street is not especially wide, and we have not any sidewalks, and we often have large and small boats being hauled to the 3 boat yard quarter mile down the street. with public housing known as Chatham Court located down the street. Just before the downward bend in the road, our street is full of children walking to the convenience and heading up local schools. Without question, Riverview Street is the frequently walked street in our town. I often work in the front yard tending flowers, and in the course of a couple of hours, I see up to 20 or more children, adults, dog walkers, and kids on bikes passing by our house. We also have the exit road from Nolan Park, which is located just beyond Chatham Court, on the right side, just at the downhill bend in the road. This multi-use park hosts softball and baseball games during the warm months and discharges many automobiles onto Riverside Street, which then goes past Chatham Court on the way to Airline Avenue and then on to Route 66. Therefore, I urge the town of Portland to install sidewalks on our street for safety of so many children and adults who walk our streets every day. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and it's signed Kenneth Kearns. And as the selectmen know, we have applied for a grant for that project, and we remain hopeful that we will be able to realize success with that grant. So I think we're ready to move on to old business. And the next item is racial equity, diversion, and inclusion. I wanted to point out our task force on solidarity met in September. October, not September, met in October. The meeting went, they determined that there would be meetings.
Susan, let me interrupt for a second, Susan. I'm sorry. Can Dave find you a different microphone? You're breaking up.
Okay, thank you.
You're
What-
welcome.
Thanks, Lou.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Not sure if there's another microphone around.
Is this one better, Lou?
Or maybe Jim's.
Yeah, Jim was loud and clear earlier.
That sounds good.
Is this one better?
Much better.
Okay, thank you for telling me that. So the Task Force on Solidarity did meet in October, and they will meet again November 10 and December 8. And I invite all to attend by way of Zoom. The next item is re-entry committee discussion of services and programs offered during COVID-19. And I've asked Mary Pont, Director of our Youth Services and Senior Services. She's going to speak specifically on our senior center and some plans for services in that agency. Mary, welcome.
Thank you. One of the, I think the most important things that has come out of this is that I have been working with our surrounding senior centers that are also in the Chatham Health District. And we have been working for approximately, I'd say a month and a half, almost 2 months, on working on a plan that is going to be a universal plan that all of the senior centers are going to be following. We felt it was important to be able to take a stand in solidarity, so to speak, because a lot of times we'll hear from our seniors as well as others that, well, this town or that town, or they're doing something, why can't we? So we felt it was really important to be able to put in print all of the, we'll call it the rules and regulations and all those guidelines that are really going to be important for all of us to open our buildings, knowing that this really right now, the word is 65 and older, stay home and stay safe. We have many of our people that still want to come out, and we need to make sure that when they do come out for different activities, it's going to be as safe as possible for that. So as I said, I've been working with the senior centers in East Haddam, East Hampton, Marlborough, Colchester, and Hebron, and working on a printable plan that is in print. It is in the hands right now of our our Chatham Health District Director, and they have been involved with us in these meetings. So we're waiting, hopefully by the end of this week. Russ Melman has been sort of overcome with all of the other things that are happening in the towns with doing all the tracing and statistics of all that's going on with the COVID. So he hopefully by the end of this week has said he's going to put his stamp that that's, agreeable to what he thinks is the best for all of us to be able to reopen. I think the hardest thing is going to be for the seniors as they come in. It's not going to be the same. We're not going to just open the doors and everything is going to be the same. There's going to be a lot of precautions that are going to have to be followed. There's going to be, I'll use the word rules that are going to have to be followed as well. And sometimes they can be a little stubborn. I don't quite understand that, but they can be a little stubborn, and we're a little concerned about that. The activities that we're planning that are going to be happening are more of the passive activities that we can make sure the people are spaced, far enough apart. And I think a lot is they come in, they bring their snacks, they sit and they have their coffee breaks. That's not going to be able to happen. The kitchen is going to remain closed. Coffee's not going to be made. They cannot bring in the food to share or sit next to one another and have their snacks. So I think once we get through a few weeks of the rules being identified and knowing it's a safety for everyone, that hopefully we'll have a smooth transition by the end of November. We're looking toward the first part of November to have this happen. We're also going to be working on, as they come in, getting accurate, updated information on each of the individuals, because if something were to happen, we want to make sure we have a contact that is accessible to us, because a lot of times they come in and maybe they've come for the first time and we don't know who they are, or is somebody around that if something does happen, who can we call? So with that tracing element in it, we need to make sure that we have contacts. We need to make sure that we're going to be able to go back to if we have to do the contact tracing. I think that's about it. I guess any questions from any of you that are thoughts?
I'll open it up for questions.
Mary, when do you plan on reopening? Do you have a date yet?
I should probably whisper it because we don't want it made public until we get the rubber stamp, but we're looking at the first week in November. The first week in November.
Yeah. Okay.
We have groups right now that have been meeting outside. We have an exercise group that's been meeting at the new park. We have actually a bocce group that has been playing bocce ball over there, which is great. That's a brand new thing. They've been thrilled. The weather's been holding. We've had our watercolor class has been down at the riverfront property. The people that are on the Bears on a journey that are usually in the building sewing and stuffing the bears that are going to the cancer treatment station, they have hospital rather, are going almost every week to have a luncheon picnic down at the riverfront property. So one of the things that won't be happening when we open is we are not going to be able to have any active exercise activities. That's one thing that is definitely not going to be happening for quite some time. So the passive activities, the watercolor classes, the bear program, some of the other things that the knitting group they meet on Thursdays, and they've been sitting under the tree on the green for quite a few weeks now. Good weather only, but so we're looking at that first week in November to try to get things rolling and give us enough time from the time we get the approval to be able to make the few calls to get people to start coming in for those activities that first week.
So
I was just going to add that the programs would likely be held in the room where I am right now, which is in the Mary Lou Rice room, which is a very good sized room. And you could socially distance small groups comfortably. And depending on the weather, the windows can be opened and there can be other ventilation methods, shall we say, that might be available. And it's something that we'll explore with Public Works. I think that could be helpful.
We're also planning on using more of the card tables than the 8-foot tables. One of the things in the plan is that people consider an 8-foot table on one on each end. But then two of the senior centers in our district, we needed to revise that because they don't even have 8-foot tables. They have 6-foot tables. So we're going to make sure that we have something in place before the groups come in, that and make it clear that whatever's there in place, they can't move. They can't move the 2 card tables together. If we have an 8-foot table, they can't move those together. So I think all those specifics in that room, as Susan said, has room enough to be able to spread that out. Our watercolor will probably be down cellar, down the bottom floor, the ground floor. They've been down there before, and that coincides with another group that comes in. So it's going to be spreading around the building, but then it's also going to be doing the super clean after they leave. So any program that happens, there's going to have to be probably an hour in between each program to make sure that the proper cleaning happens on all the surfaces before the next program comes in.
Face coverings or masks will have to be worn, as well as the social distancing. And as I mentioned, appropriate ventilation.
Yeah.
Ralph, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I had a question for you. I'm just curious that, I mean, obviously you've had lots of programs. Are you in a situation where most of your programs have a limited number? Or you typically have programs before that were walk-ins and they didn't really worry about numbers? Are you going to have to change now where you're going to have limits on all your programs, obviously?
Right now, the programs that we have had in the past have been there. They will fall within the limits and guidelines of the capacity of the room, as well as what we can comfortably have, as far as numbers. One of the activities that was really big was our Tai Chi class, and that can run 30 people. And that's an exercise program. That's not going to be able to happen. We have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that's the group that's meeting out at the park. That can run, I'd say probably 15, 17, and some walk-ins to maybe 20. And they start out in a circle in that big room. So that's not going to be able to happen. An exercise program cannot happen. So we have the capacity and capability in that room if we are very careful and people adhere to all the rules, and that's going to be difficult. We're going to have new hats, I think, that we are the senior police, or Carol or Vicky is going to be the senior police, and with a big net or something. I don't know. We're going to have to.
Well, and I think that what Mary is saying is that we do certainly encourage everyone to attend these meetings pre-planned, and they also will need to recognize that if they're over 65 or have other health concerns, they are in a high-risk group. And it certainly is individual responsibility as to whether they attend and sign up for the programs. But certainly, from what you're saying, Mary, the programs will be administered in the safest way that we can. And we encourage everyone to follow the rules, just as they're doing in our schools. Our K through 12 seems to be working well, and people are adhering to the safety rules, and it can be a pleasant experience and no one will get sick. That's the whole plan.
And I think, unfortunately, one of the things that is going to have to be stated is that when they come into the building and come into an activity, it's at their own risk, because that's something that was very strongly stated to us. So it has to be at their individual risk, that they feel comfortable enough to come in, but then adhere to the rules that are going to be put in place for them.
One of the reasons I asked Mary to come here tonight is certainly to have questions from the selectmen, but I also wanted to know if you were in agreement with following the health department safety guidelines as she's outlined. I would anticipate these will be written out from the health department, and in turn, Mary will write them up and share them with the selectmen before the first week of November.
It's in the form of, I'll say, a booklet. It is already in print. And that is what is being reviewed right now by Chatham Health. And
Great.
as I said, they have been involved in, I'm going to say, almost all of our meetings and given their feedback, as well as all the feedback from all the different centers in the district. So I think it's an important piece for all of us to know that we have it in our hand. And as soon as I get that approval from Russ and we all in the district, which I said he's hoping to have it. He wants to read through it, obviously, to make sure it's what we all agreed on. And as soon as I get that, then I'll send that to Susan and she can send that out to all of you. Unless he's changed anything, it can go as is and it is already in print.
Additional questions?
Oh, I would just have one question, Mary, and that maybe is looking at a different venue for a bigger space. If in fact the senior center space is too small for a large group to exercise, I'd hate to stop the exercise completely, but wondering if the health department would say on a Saturday, you could use the high school gymnasium. Might be big enough. 30 people probably get lost in that pretty well with 10, 20, 30 feet between each other. The program could still operate. And I was just thinking a bigger venue bigger space might be conducive for that type of activity. Just an idea.
That's something we could definitely run past the health department. But I think that they were very clear that that kind of exercise program was not at this point advisable to hold
Indoors.
indoors.
They are exercising outdoors.
They are
That will
out-
continue
outside.
as long as the weather permits.
Okay, thank you.
Be good
Well,
to ask that question.
it's gonna be seasonally warm for at least another week, so.
Well, drive by the park. You'll probably see them Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah,
So
I know, I have.
Yeah, it's great. No, there's a nice location there. It's very nice. Any other questions? Is there any interest in a motion to approve this approach?
I'll make the motion. To,
That- Could you
to,
say what the motion would be, Ralph?
open the seniors, to reopen the senior center to activities based on the guidelines that are being written up by the towns that are working with the Chatham Health District.
Thank you, Ralph. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Rick Shaw. Further discussion? Questions?
Susan, I'd like to
All
see
right.
the guidelines first before we vote on this,
Okay.
to see what they actually say.
There will not be a regularly scheduled meeting before the first week of November. So we could hold off. Or we can have a special meeting. It's also very easy to do, Mike.
Yeah,
Um,
my thing with the rise, with the rise of cases right now, I don't know, I'd just be a little concerned to rush into this. And I'd just like to see the guidelines before I would approve it, I guess.
Fair enough. How do the other selectmen feel?
Yeah, I think the only reason why I, was willing to make the motion is that I've been involved with everything that's going on with the schools, and I've heard Russ speak at a number of times, and they're extremely conservative in their approach. So you're right, we probably should see the specific guidelines. But I guess I'm going off of the premise, I believe they're going to be conservative in nature.
I think, Mike, actually you bring up a good point. I was also going to say that I know you want to open the senior center and that's good, but I would also try to encourage as much outdoor meeting or exercise. I know you can't do some of the stuff that it just wouldn't lend itself, but I mean, even in the cold weather, I know I stay active all year long. I mean, I just dress for it. As a senior, I would be I understand people want it open and I'm okay with that, but personally, I would, as a senior, I would probably continue to stay away until I saw the infection rates going down. I would be inclined to go down to Riverfront Park and do something though, but
Mhm.
more outdoor than indoor.
Mary, do you know when those written guidelines will be given out?
As I said, as soon as I hear from Russ Melman, and I was emailing back and forth with him yesterday. I know we're going to be speaking with him tomorrow. So maybe due to the fact we're speaking with him tomorrow, he might have looked at it ahead of time, but certainly by the end of this week. That was what he had said for a timeline, that he would have reviewed it by the end of this week. So
Okay.
tomorrow's Thursday.
Would consider, if it's the will of the selectmen, to wait on this motion. And I will call a special meeting if we do have the rules.
That's fine. I would withdraw my motion and make it at a future meeting after we've seen the
Okay.
guidelines.
And who made the second?
I'll withdraw the second
Okay.
that I had made.
Okay. So at this point, thank you, Mike. We will wait until those guidance materials are available and the selectmen have had a chance to look at them. And then the center can open if it's the will of the selectmen. But as you know, back in the summer, we determined that the selectmen are the reopening committee. And as we make changes to our programming and the use of our buildings, it's brought to you, and it is your decision to say yes or to say wait until another time. So we will revisit this once the materials are available. And thanks for all your information, Mary. It's really helpful. Anything further on the topic from the selectmen?
No, thank you, Mary.
Okay, I want to also just, Rick, just to say that I think we know that the groups that are going to be coming are going to be smaller in size. And I think knowing that some of the people have not really even been out yet, they are staying home, people are bringing their food into them. So I think we're recognizing that there are those that are being so super cautious that, you know, want to be involved, but know that their health is their most important thing for them. So we're looking at that, and we're not going to know until we open the doors how many are actually going to be coming back for an activity. So, but
That's-
Mike, I
I was-
do appreciate what you said.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of asking you that similar question. Like, how many people are actually gonna come out? Because I know, like, we probably wouldn't,
Right.
and at least at this time anyway. So
That's the only thing I would say is if you look at how much we've seen to scale down activity, although it's a good amount of activity at the new park, it's certainly scaled down from what we anticipated if it was normal circumstances. So my guess being that this age group, you're going to see conservative approach as well. So I would think your
Yeah.
number is going to probably be on the lower side, but we'll obviously have to see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So the next item on our agenda is action on proposed land swap with Exchange Club of Portland, map 75, lots 27 and 28. I am recusing myself from this, so I will leave the meeting and turn it over to Lou Pear. And I believe there are other members of the board that are also recusing themselves. And this was on advice of our Ethics Commission because we are active members of the Exchange Club. And if you could identify yourselves, please.
Rick Shar recusing himself. So should we just click off
I think you can.
screen or leave the room? I
Well,
guess I can leave the room.
I'm just going to leave the table at this point.
Okay.
Is there anyone else?
Yeah, Ralph Sampan will be doing the same.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan. Earlier tonight, we held a public hearing on a land swap between the town of Portland and the Exchange Club. No comment was received, and there were no communications that were received. Therefore, I'd like to read the resolution that identifies the land swap between the town of Portland and the Exchange Club. And it's entitled Resolution Board of Selectmen, Town of Portland, Connecticut, dated October 21st, 2020. Resolution authorization land swap on Meadow Road. Whereas the Exchange Club of Portland owns the parcel of land located in the Wongunk Meadows containing an estimation of 1.63 acres designated in the assessor's files as map 75, lot 28. And whereas the town of Portland owns the parcel of land located in the Wongunk Meadows containing by estimation of 7.52 acres designated in the assessor's files as map 75, lot 27. And whereas the Exchange Club of Portland proposes a land swap with the town of Portland of 0.82 acres from lot 28 and 1.79 acres from lot 27. And whereas the above described properties border each other and the town of Portland would provide an easement on the driveway in favor of the Exchange Club. Whereas on October 1st, 2020, the Planning and Zoning Commission conducted an 8-24 referral and made recommendations to accept the proposed land swap between the town of Portland and the Exchange Club of Portland, Planning and Zoning application number 20-05. Whereas in accordance with the Connecticut General Statutes 7-163E, the Board of Selectmen duly warned and held an electronic public hearing on October 21st, 2020, to allow the electors and those persons eligible to vote in town meetings of the town to discuss whether the Board of Selectmen should approve or authorize the above proposed land swap. Now therefore be it resolved that upon recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as due consideration and public comment, the Board of Selectmen find that it is in the town's best interest to facilitate the land swap and easement conveyance, and be it further resolved that the Board of Selectmen hereby authorize the first selectman to execute any deeds and other documents necessary to facilitate the land swap and easement conveyance, and the description attached, there is a description attached in this resolution with a map and also the meets and bounds. With that said, we've had the hearing. I've read the resolution. Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
Yeah, I'll make a
Right.
motion.
Oh, go ahead.
Resolution titled Resolution Authorizing Land Swap on Meadow Road dated October 21, 2020 as presented.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second it. Mike,
Mike Hernandez, a second?
correct. Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor
Aye.
and all opposed signify not by saying no. Looks like the vote was unanimous, 4 votes for favor, and we've had a quorum meeting. We met the quorum of 4 selectmen at a meeting. I would like to thank you for your support, and the motion passed. At this time, I'd like to call back Susan Bransfield to see and conduct the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you, Susan.
The next item on our agenda is action on the special town meeting to enter into municipal loan agreements with Eversource as part of Energy Efficiency Services project numbers CT 20-P 00047-134 for the town hall, as well as CT 20-P 000633366 for Fire Company 1, and CT 20-P 00047-322 Fire Company 2. There was a town meeting held previous to this meeting. There were no comments. Jim was there as the moderator of the meeting, and I don't know if there's any comments that want to be made or added. Jim?
No, well, again, yeah, no comments reported from the meeting. I would just say that this is a good agreement from the town. It's going to save us money in the long term. It's going to provide us better serviceability at our facilities. And it's good for the environment. So this is something I think we should definitely move forward with.
The only thing that I wanted to add, it's just a small statement within the areas where we talk about the governor's special um, motions and special changes to the laws, that it was reiterated in September by him. So many of those things that were dated, I think, in April and other months, if we could just perhaps, Jim, maybe you could find the location to say that this was reaffirmed in, I believe, September.
Yeah, I can do that. Reading those sections of the agreement, of the resolution. There's one paragraph, whereas section 7 of Governor Ned Lamont's Executive Order 7S dated April 1, 2020, and issued in connection with his declaration of public health and civil preparedness emergencies March 10, 2020, provide that notwithstanding any municipal charter, ordinance, or resolution with Executive Order number 7S, the municipality's legislative body, or a municipality where the legislative body is a town meeting, the Board of Selectmen and Budget Making Authority may, by majority vote of each such body, authorize certain actions enumerated therein without complying with any requirements for in-person approval by electors or taxpayers, including annual or special town meetings and requiring votes of referenda, provided that all conditions precedent to any such approval, including public notices, hearings, and or presentations, shall proceed as closely consistent with the applicable statutes, town charters, and municipal ordinances. And whereas Executive Order 7S was amended by Executive Order 7CC dated April 2021. I'm trying to see, yeah, to additionally include among the actions the such bodies may authorize by majority vote of each body any financial actions required by contract or agreement. If each such body has approved such action and has made specific findings that such action is necessary to permit the orderly operation of the municipality and that there is need to act immediately during the duration of the public health and civil preparedness emergency in order to avoid endangering the public health and welfare, prevent significant financial loss, or that action is otherwise necessary for the protection of persons and property within the municipality. I believe that covers the.
And I think it would just say, and these orders were reaffirmed in September of 2020. So that perhaps we could just put that at the end where it says property within the municipality, and these actions were reaffirmed by the governor in September 2020, and then whereas pursuant to the executive orders and so forth. Does everyone understand what I was referring to?
Sure.
Probably right at the end of that paragraph, just so that there's a notation that it was, the executive orders were reaffirmed in September. So that if someone in a few years looks at this, they'll look and see that we were knowledgeable that his actions are, actually, they're going to be through, I think they'll be effective through a date in February.
So Susan, I just had one comment on that, and it's exactly what we've talked about. If we can, I think Rick Shar was early in maybe the first year of his term on the Board of Selectmen, talked about how we save money. How can we save money using, being more efficient with the electricity that we use? I think this really complements those types of ideas that the Board of Selectmen feel. It's one way in which we can reduce the budget and reduce the impact on taxpayers. So I agree with the proposal. I think it's a good idea, and let's move forward.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I want to thank our task force for the work that they've done on this. And I want to thank our Public Works Department as well as Eversource. All of these people, along with our finance director, work very hard, as you said, to try to save money, save energy, protect the environment, And I think it's a win-win for everyone.
And Susan, I'd like to add that typically with these programs, between the incentives Eversource provides and the immediate savings you're having by using less kilowatt hours, you're actually paying back the loan with the money you're saving by not using so much electricity. So if it's almost like if you didn't do this, you'd be paying more for the electricity.
That's right.
So it's almost like you can't, it's a no lose. And then after the 5 years, all the savings is 100%. You'll in dollars, because the loan will be paid off. But the actual $313 a month on one of them there, for example, is you're probably going to be saving about $350 or $400 a month in the cost of electricity. So you're actually a little bit ahead of the game. And that kicks in even more after the 5-year loan period has expired. So just wanted to
Good points.
mention that
Jim, did you have?
Yeah, I just trying to, the language that were talking about, just to
Yep.
capture that, I was thinking of between the 7th and 8th paragraph, which that 7th paragraph is the last one that I read, that referred to both Executive Order 7S and 7CC. We could add where it says, basically it says, and whereas Executive Order 7S and 7C were reaffirmed in October 2020, and whereas, and then continue on to pursuant to the executive orders, the Board of Selectmen duly formed and held an electronic special town meeting.
Yes.
Does that cover?
Yeah, and in fact, I do see where September 1, 2020, there was the extension of the Declaration of Civil Preparedness and Emergency Management signed by Ned Lamont, and then it was affirmed. So I think that just gives a little chronology for the next set of folks that look at these things.
Do you have a specific date that the executive orders were reaffirmed? Or we just wanna
It
leave
does, I
October
would,
2020?
I would say September, actually.
September?
And I would think that would be,
That'd be fine.
yeah.
Okay.
it's because the governor declared the public health and civil preparedness emergencies. And this was September 1, 2020, to be continued. And that allows us to continue under all of those executive orders that were issued previous. So that's why I would add it as September 2020. Just as, again, as a little additional clarification, when people read these, and we've done this for other actions, it's helpful to see these things. When you go back and read, it helps us the next time that we have to do these things. Hopefully it won't happen again, but it could. And I don't know that there is a need to read the entire resolution, but we certainly would if the selectmen choose to. But if there is a motion to approve the approval and authorization to enter into an emergency efficiency services loan agreement with Eversource with the changes as recognized and spoken to by Mr. Tripp a few minutes ago, you would make the motion and waive the reading.
Yeah, I would make a motion, to approve the motion, titled approval and authorization to enter into an energy efficiency services loan agreement with Eversource, as amended by adding the notation that whereas the executive order number 7S and 7CC were reaffirmed in September 2020. I would also ask, as part of that motion, that we agree to waive the reading, given that we did read it in the special town meeting really just a few moments ago.
Thank you, Jim. Is there a second to Jim's motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Rick Shaw. Any further discussion on the motion?
Susan, I'm gonna have to abstain from this. Can you
Okay,
hear me, Susan?
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
just letting you know, I will be abstaining from this because it is our company that will be doing the work for town hall and the fire department,
thank you. Mr. Hernandez.
correct?
Oh, it's, did I have the right person?
Yeah, Mike Hernandez, yep.
Very good. So I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any noes? Any abstentions?
Abstention. I'm abstaining.
One abstention from Mr. Michael Hernandez. Thank you. And thank you, everyone who's been involved with that. It's really a big help to our town. We look forward to saving some money. The next item is letter E under old business appointments to boards and commissions. Are there any appointments tonight? No. The next is new business refunds of excess payments. Jim Tripp,
All right, I make a motion on the amount of $2.07 to Norman Rossignol.
Second it.
seconded by Ralph. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I make a motion on the amount of $460.59 to Honda Lease Trust.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I make a motion that we refund the amount of $435.59 to Vita Leasing Ltd.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And I make a motion that we refund the amount of 36 cents to Company Inc.
I will second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 9, status and committee reports. Do we have any status or committee reports tonight?
Susan, I have a couple things.
Ralph?
One, I would like, well, the library board is going to be meeting later, is going to be meeting tomorrow, but I will just note so people are aware that there is an event next Friday on the 30th, a trick or treat event, a drive-through trick or treat. That's being hosted by the library in conjunction with Park and Rec from 4 to 6 next Friday. So I would like to just pass that on to anyone that hasn't seen. They publicize it pretty well, but just always, I'm gonna, if anyone's listening on to this or watching it later, just to let them know that event is occurring. Because I know there's lots of discussion, social media about Halloween. Is it gonna happen? Is there gonna be trick or treating? So I will tell you that this event will indeed take place, weather permitting, next Friday. The only other thing I would offer is that I know we were out at the park today and there was discussions about how they're going to go about doing the winterization of the park. So that's obviously a focal point of discussion right now is how we'll close it up for the winter.
Thank you. Other reports?
I would just note, and I think it was already noted that the Solidarity Task Force, they had their first meeting. They elected their chairman to be April Graves. It's a good group. They basically are, I think, eager to get to the task, and we wish them luck. It's an important topic and an important conversation. And then also a couple notes from the Board of Ed meeting last night. First of all, the Connecticut Department of Education, working through the board announced it and kind of let folks know that originally the free lunch that's been going on that was going to be running through and was planned to run through the end of the year is actually going to run now through the end of the school year. And the date they said was 6/30/21. Is good to help and assist with the families here in town. They are talking, did have a conversation, and they're already looking at the winter sports activities and some of the discussions that are going on within the CIAC. I think that they did raise a concern in terms of how, in terms of wrestling and the ability. I don't think that that's a sport that they see that can be done safely, so they definitely raised that. But in general, what they wanted to get across is that they're really going to be looking at the Department of Public Health and to follow the guidance associated with that. Being very careful with any sports they consider high risk. They also noted on the call last night that they have started the early in their budget. So we'll get back to that season again. And the schools, as discussed in the last Board of Education meeting, as they voted and approved, The schools are planning to fully reopen on October 26th. One of the interesting facts is that and one of the open questions out of that was going to be, what was the migration of students going to look like? How many students were going to move from the PVLA, right, the Portland Virtual Learning Academy, to back to the schools in an open configuration, and vice versa, how many students would move back. The surveys had indicated you may see a shift towards the PVLA, but in practice, it worked out that 28 students are moving from the PVLA to the schools as they're reopening, and 22 students are looking at moving from what is currently the hybrid, not going to the reopening and moving to the PVLA. So it worked out pretty well from that perspective in terms of being a wash in terms of overall numbers. Some adjustments have had to be made to maintain classrooms and make sure you can maintain distancing, but it sounds like they got a real good bead on it, and things worked out fairly well.
Good.
Yeah, just to follow up on, Jim, because I was on the call as well with Jim, and I know there's been lots of discussion, concerns about the safety of the kids in the classrooms, and the changes that they did made. Originally, they were looking at some class sizes at the